Our crank index offset. This is going to be telling the Emtron where the position it's going to calculate fuel and spark timing from for the T1 cam trigger. So we've set all the T1 cam trigger details in our base map creation videos. Now we need to go and make sure that this is accounted for properly so that when the Emtron's going to fire the ignition timing, let's say at 20 degrees, it'll be actually at 20 degrees of rotation of the engine cycle within the compression stroke. So for example, spark timing. But it needs to know what's going on with the actual engine rotation, and this is going to be what ties everything together. So right now, 0 degrees isn't going to be valid for the engine. What I'm going to do right now is go in here to our ignition lock enable. I'm going to go and turn this to a value of 1 or on for my value right here. What this is going to do is unlock then my crank index offset. I can actually change this, and my ignition lock angle. I'm going to change my ignition lock angle to a value of 0. This is going to be firing the spark plug off at TDC. That's what the Emtron is going to command to the engine. That doesn't mean that it's going to actually be where it's going to fire the spark plug off. That's going to be related to our crank index offset. We need to find this value out. Now, you could look at a data sheet for the cam and crank trigger that you're working with. The T1 cam trigger shows that Motec, the instructions for Motec, show that this should be a value of 479 degrees as a starting point, and you need to check it with a timing light. I don't know if that's going to be valid or not. What I'm going to do is start off with a value of 0 here. I'm going to turn off the injectors, and I'm going to crank over the engine. I have a button that can actually hook to the starter, so I can do this remotely. I'm going to put the timing light between I have a jumper lead that's going to go between the spark plug and the coil pack on my #1 cylinder. I'm going to hook that spark plug lead in, it's just a jumper, hook my timing light onto that so I can actually get a good pulse, use the timing light and point it at the balancer and crank over the engine. What I'm going to do then is put my timing light at 0 degrees or TDC and make sure that the engine is showing TDC on the engine balancer. Now this particular engine should have a timing cover with a timing point reference on it, so it'd actually look at the balancer and determine about where that pointer value should be at. Now, in this case, there is a marking on the block that's hard to see, and I don't think I'll be able to capture that in a video so I can show you when I'm actually cranking over the engine what that looks like. But I'm essentially going to be lining up the TDC mark on the balancer with the pointer mark on the engine block or the engine cover. And I need to go in and change this crank index offset. So when I command 0 here at the lock timing, I'm actually getting 0 or TDC at the engine. Once we verify that, then we can fire off the engine and start to check some things further with the timing light. But this is the first step. In order to do this safely, so we don't flood out the engine, we do need to go to engine setup here, move over to fuel, go into fuel main, and go here to the sequential stage and just set this to off. This is shut off the injectors, so none of the injectors will spray and flood out the engine. Very important here because we will be cranking it over quite a bit in order to figure out that crank index offset value. So if we go back in here, go back into our window, I'm going to go ahead, jump out, and check this right now. Once I get a value that seems reasonable, then we'll fire it off, and then we'll check it further with a timing light. So let me do that right now. I'll take some pictures of what everything looks like while I'm out there, and come back in and kind of describe it a little bit and figure out what this value ended up being at in order to get it relatively close so that when I'm locking again TDC, I'm commanding TDC to fire at the engine, I'm actually getting TDC at the engine. When we go do that, I'll be right back here in a few minutes and I'll talk about what I ended up finding for this crank index. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.